Thanks. So, hello everyone. I'm Mike. I hate processes because last 3 years I'm working in a PCI project. So we have all the card payment compliances and other stuff. So it's the moment when the processes hit you hard. You have all the compliances to fulfill. You have the audits every year that takes 2 or 3 months. And that makes you hate processes, even if you liked it. So I was working as a tester for the last almost 8 years in different companies, in different environments. For the last 6 years, I work as a consultant. And last 3 years is a PCI payments project. DevTest pairing, this is a topic that is based on my team's experience. So basically, we had the opportunity to start doing DevTest pairing at the beginning of the last year. And I want to just show you what was the reason that we started it and how we are doing it that makes us a good team. Some of the people inside our company says that we are one of the most valuable teams because we are the only team that was moved totally to Poland. So basically our product owner is in the UK, but every engineer and tester is in Poland. And I want to convince you to start doing that, no matter how the project setup looks like on your side. So basically, you can try to do it in Agile. Most of the ceremonies that I will based on will be related to Agile, but it's also possible to do it in Waterfall. You can do it in distributed teams, you can do it in co-located teams. Basically, on our companies, most of the teams currently do DevTest pairing, no matter if the team is distributed and how much distributed it is. We have one team where every team member works in a different country. They spend 90% of their time on a remote working from home, and they still do the DevTest pairing. So starting with my team. So once upon a time, there was a PCI project where there was a PCI team, and we decided that we want to have our team values, and the team values were to be working together, working doskonale, and produce great quality. So doskonale was the first word that we learned our product owner from the UK, and now he really knows a lot of Polish words, and he started the initiative to have in the UK remote Polish lessons. And we were thinking that we are a great team, that we produce everything that our product owner wants to have, and we are doing it on time, and it's a great quality. But the problem was that at every retrospective, we were arguing with each other, and many people were saying that the software is thrown over the wall to the tester, and they worry about it. And we, at the beginning, we didn't know what does it mean, why they are not seeing the way we do it. We were thinking we are doing it together, because basically developer was implementing, then tester was testing, then we run release security testing, and then everything goes to production. So it was great, but not so much. So when we start discussions with our customers about how they feel about features that we delivered, basically this is a Chinese project that was inspired by a Lamborghini. And
I thought that Batman.
No. So some of the parts are exact from a Lamborghini. They ordered them in Italy and they push it to that car, and this won an award of the most ugliest car ever created. Yeah, exactly. So when we started to discuss with our customers how they feel about what we are producing, that was a sort of description that we got. Then when we had these audits and other stuff, and external people coming in, then when there was an escalations, it was triggering a hidden culture. So basically developers were saying it's not their fault. I, as a tester, was arguing with them and was screaming at them when we get the fixes, because there is an auditor and we have 24 hours deadline to finish the external pen testing and other stuff. And basically, every escalation that goes through the customer or through the auditors or whoever from external, from our team, it was always triggering that culture. Everybody was just covering up whose fault it is not. They were not focused on finding a resolution, but just hitting the person who is responsible to push to the next step. Even if the step after is hitting back on me, I was still hitting the developers until it was their fault. And we got a yearly PCI compliance audit, and it almost got us failing on our project. So basically one of our dev managers, when he heard that we are starting a yearly audit, his first sentence was PCI compliance audit, we are fucked. And that was his opinion, that it's not possible for us to get the compliance. So we got it on the last 2 hours before the deadline. And it cost me to spend 2 night shifts in the office. But basically we got it. And that was the moment when we got a DevOps retrospective of our team, of the dev managers and operations managers. And there was a common view that the company and the product owner are seeing that this is how we work on. So our developers, they spend overtime hours to produce package. They deliver it at the end of the day, and then I'm doing the night shift to run the testing. So the funny part was this package at the release testing was supposed to have 75 test cases run on it. On one of the night shifts, I ran 74. I just missed one of the test cases, and that was the test case that failed during the audit. And we started with a huge 5Y, and I was thinking, they are going to kill me. I missed that test case, and the first sentence I say on 5Y was, yes, I missed that test case, and this was the reason why it was falling on production. And the funny thing was that from our organization perspective, the next question on this meeting was, was it failing on that test case, even if Michał has missed it? And this way, I was not blamed, even by my team, even if they were expecting to defend themselves, that it was my fault. And that was the moment when we start thinking that maybe our communication can be better, maybe we should not trigger this blaming culture. And then the company found out that there is a good way to learn us how to communicate with each other. And they decided to do an experiment. And experiment was that there was a meeting room, a small meeting room in our office. And they forced us to sign a contract that for 1 month, all 3 of us from PCI team will spend whole day in that room. We will not go to the kitchen. If we go, we just pick the tea or coffee and go back to that room. But we will not spend time in the kitchen on discussions. We will discuss everything internally in that room and try to guess what the cut was. Any ideas? So basically, we got 8 hours online conference with our product owner, and he was watching us the whole day. And that was really fun, because then we get the retrospectives, which were focused on product owner giving us feedback. So and we got daily retrospectives at the end of the day. And the product owner, the first thing that he started was counting the number of hours that we spent literally in that room. And it turns out that in the first week, we were sitting in that room 2 up to 3 hours instead of 8. And we were trying to do anything just to stay outside of that room. Basically, when we were sitting in that room, we had like a huge desk, and there was me sitting on this side. One of the developers was sitting on here, and the second developer was sitting on the opposite side to me. Every one of us had a laptop and 2 monitors, and basically we were not communicating, we were just sitting in the same room. And during the whole month, everything changed. So basically we moved between the chairs, and at the end of it, we were sitting next to each other. We removed some of the monitors from that room and stopped using them. But to trigger that, we've got a visit from the IBRD team. That was the second team with similar setup from the UK. And the thing that hit us was that they were literally working together. They were doing the dev pairing because a tester couldn't arrive to our Polish office, so there were only 2 developers. But the thing was that they were delivering end-to-end features through the collaboration between each other. So when they were doing, for example, development, one of them was a developer and second one was pairing with him. And then they switched the roles, and when they were doing testing, the second one was like a primary tester, and that one was pairing with him. And at the end, when the feature was tested, they were dialing in the tester from their team, and they were just doing a demo to him, showing what was implemented, what was tested, how they do it, and he was just giving him yes or no if they can go on production with it. So he was literally doing like a debrief of testing instead of doing actual testing. And we started to ask them, how did you do it? And they say that they are focused on the delivery of the package. And sometimes they are using like the approach of navigator and driver. So basically, during the developing, the developer is a driver and the tester can be a navigator. And then when you're doing the testing, you can just switch it. So tester will be running the test steps or exploratory testing or whatever, but still the developer can be a navigator. So when we got a new team member to our PCI team, one of the first things that he said was that when he was working in Nokia, they got a rule that testers shouldn't see the implementation of the feature that he will be testing because it's affecting his testing. And we say, that's not the thing that you will be doing here with us. And currently he says that he sees a lot of benefits from giving me the ability to pair with him when he's implementing features or unit testing those features. And when I'm working on testing, he's sitting with me and he gives his feedback or input or change my approach to testing sometimes. But basically we do it based on a pairing. So when the experiment ended, we got a huge retrospective, and the IBRD team was a part of it, and our team was a part of it. So basically, IBRD team was happy. They shown us how they work, and then they asked us, do we like this way of working? And then we were happy and saying, yes, we like it, and we are using it. But true in our minds, we were sad because we were seeing the difference. And we got an idea that we need to start working this way, because then anybody will be able to push the package straight to the production. So basically, if I'm the only tester in a PCI team and I will be out of the office, there will be no blockers, because the developers will be able to push everything straight to the production. They will only have to do a debrief with some of the test team members from other team. Even if he's not familiar with the feature, he will see if they are testing everything according to our internal process. And that's how we started to implement some of the dev test pairing practices. So the practices are focused on the ceremonies that we do in our team. So there are a few standard Scrum ceremonies, and some of them are maybe not used by every team, so maybe you can try it. So one of the first things that we do is the backlog grooming. So when we have a meeting with the product owner every second week, when he's showing us the long-term roadmap and ask us about the questions, do we have a brief knowledge what the features will be that he wants us to have implemented, and how big should be the estimate? It's a matter of, I don't know, man days sometimes. It's not story points yet, And we started to have testers involved in that meetings. So basically, tester can be like a detective, so he's not afraid of asking questions. Why does it disappear?
It's okay.
Okay. So he's not afraid of asking questions, and he is working on an estimate with the rest of the team. And basically, some of the questions that testers ask are very important. So they are very much affecting the scope, and they are affecting the estimate itself, or the result that product owner produced as a user story. For example, when we had a lot of previous user stories, they were very small, but at the end it turns out that they are not testable because we don't have an environment that fulfills all the requirements to have it tested. And basically the problem was that we need to, at the end of implementation, we were redesigning the user story just to make it testable, or to adjust it to the environments that currently were ready for us. Now we can have the questions regarding testability on a grooming level, and we could reserve the environments that we need. Or we could just, if we decide that there's any specific environment that will be used, we can change the scope. We can split a story in a half, and we will produce as a part of that story only this half that is testable on that environment, because the other ones are booked, and the second half can be done when it will be free. So for me, the tricky point was starting to be involved in the grooming meetings. So at the beginning, for me, the grooming meeting was such a long-term scenario that I was assuming, who cares? I will be testing that in the next 2 or 3 months. So I don't care which environment we'll be using or how it will be implemented. When it will be finished, then I will be focused on that. And that's the thing that has to be changed. The tester has to be involved in such a meetings, and it has to be not afraid of showing his ideas, and then maybe even affecting the estimates. So basically, we started with the backlog groomings when developers were estimating like 5 days. Then that story goes into planning, and then it goes to implementation. And after 5 days, they push it to testing. And the product owner asks me if I'm able to finish it today. And I say, why? And he says, because the estimate was 5 days. You already took the 5 days. And that was the moment when we started to focus on having testing as a part of estimate. So even if I was not involved in a grooming because I was attending any other meeting, then at the beginning developers were saying to the product owner, it's 5 days of developing and 2 days of testing. But then they moved to a way when they were giving like an estimate of 7 up to 8 days. And it didn't require product owner to ask if both development and testing is included. So we learned a lot, and we started to have everything included. We started to have a free Amigos meeting. So that's the meeting that we are doing before starting a story. So after the grooming, there's a planning. So we took a bunch of user stories to our sprint backlog. And there is a rule that to have a story started in Jira and move to the development stage, it has to have a free Amigos meeting. And basically, this is the meeting on which we agree on the content of definition of done, acceptance criteria, and all the Jira checklist that has to be fulfilled at the end of the story. So this way, we are moving whole discussion regarding the definition of done and acceptance criteria from this long-term perspective, when nobody too much knows how it will be implemented or what should it contain, to a level that we do this meeting, it takes hour or up to 2 hours, depending how big is the story. And then straight after this meeting, the development team is picking up that story. So they are not building a description of a story that they plan to work on next month. They are working on a description of the story that will be started in the next 15 minutes. And yeah, so basically it involves everybody, and everybody is focused on a common goal, but it doesn't mean that we should agree on everything. So there are studies saying that the most efficient teams are the teams that struggle, and they're having a lot of discussions instead of agreeing one to each other. So basically here, there is a cartoon, and everybody from those three persons has other agendas, but at the end of the cartoon, they are always solving the mystery. The same goes with the bobsleigh team, so everybody has their own specialty, but they all want to push the bobsleigh to the finish line. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to agree on everything they do. So basically, the Three Amigos is the moment when we can discuss with each other, we can argue with each other, but there is another rule that we have that means disagree but commit, and it means that at the end of the Three Amigos meeting, even if I'm not happy with half of the story description, if we decide this is the outcome that we are expecting, even if I disagree, at the implementation and testing level, I'm committed to the description that was produced on a Three Amigos meeting. I don't try at the testing stage to just change a half of the story. At the end of the story, we agree, this is the package that we want to push to the production, this is the feature that we want to deliver, and we all commit that this is it. Even if we personally don't agree with everything that is there, that's our current commitment, and we try to fulfill it. And the part when we are doing the pairing. So, the first thing is the coding and testing at dev environment. So, I like when my developers feels like him. So I'm sitting next to him and I'm watching his implementations, I'm interested, I'm happy, and I'm agreeing with him as long as this is fulfilling the requirements that we have. And he can show me the code, he can show me the configuration, he can show me the unit tests and everything else. I sometimes try to do code review or security code review for him, but it still keeps us involved and keeps us together. We are doing the shared unit test reviews. So basically when I'm producing, because we are working based on exploratory mind maps, when I'm creating a mind map and then I'm doing a review of the user stories, I just mark some of the scenarios as already tested by the unit tests. I also, during this part, show the mind map to the developers, and sometimes when they see a bunch of the scenarios, they can extend the number of unit tests, and they say, there is no reason why you should do this check from your mind map. We can just easily add new test data to the unit tests, and we can check it earlier. And sometimes the result of it is during the unit test review, we are extending the scope, finding bugs, and then before moving the story to the test, it can be fixed. And when something goes to test, usually it's tested for a few hours, at most 1 day, and it's very seldom situation that I found something. Mostly the reason if I found something is because there is something that was not committed but was implemented, or some waves or images are not committed to the SVN, or are committed but not produced as a part of the binary produced by Jenkins. There are very few situations when there's a functional error or something like this. Most of the functional errors is found on a dev environment. And we have also a rule that we are doing a shared configuration review. So developers are showing me the whole configuration behind the unit tests and behind the dev environment. And then if we move such a feature to a test environment, it might be deployed and configured by me or the developer. There's no hidden knowledge in it. I have seen everything that requires to be configured. So it doesn't matter who is doing the later stages. everyone has a knowledge. And then there's a part of the exploratory testing. So basically, when I was doing the exploratory testing, and developers have no idea what it is, they were thinking that there's a hidden magic behind it, and there's like a hidden bug, like this mouse hiding over here, and I'm just looking for it, and then finding it. And then we got the ideas that because there are the test debriefs in our company, we've got an idea that we should try to do it the way the IBRD team was doing it. So it allows the developer to play with the software, to be the cat. And then the second developer is the one who was implementing that. And they pair up and test it based on an exploratory mind map that I was producing for them. And then they marked which of the scenarios were failed, what was their outcomes and other stuff. And at the end, they go to me and they say, we run your mind map. These are the results that we've got. Is it ready for production? Because usually I don't have a situation when everything is marked green on a mind map. They mark a few things as yellow and then add remarks. And then they ask me to decide. And well, at the beginning it was the product owner who was deciding, but usually product owner was asking me, Michał, are you happy? And if I say yes, then it goes to production. So they skip the product owner. And basically, it's all related to having fun together. So we found some of the funny places where, for example, there was we got a UTF-8 compliance, and the naming of the Vietnamese politicians are not UTF-8 compliant. And inside of the mind map, I found that if Prime Minister of Vietnam goes to UK, he cannot pay through our system with his credit card. And it was very funny. And the outcome decision was from product owner that if Vietnamese Prime Minister visits UK, he won't be paying through our system. So let's ignore it. But it was a lot of fun when we found it. And when we were describing to the product owner how big the impact is and if he should push it to the production or not. Then we changed the demo approach. So the standard demo approach that I know is the one on the left. So basically there's usually a tester who is showing a feature. There is a customer or a product owner who is saying if he's happy or unhappy. And there's the rest of the team making notes. How badly he was presenting the feature, and that's the reason why it was failed on a demo. And we decided to change that. So basically, our internal demo for the product owner are that we are giving him the test data and he is doing it on his own. So he is doing the demo for himself, and only if he has any troubles, he's asking us. And when we do external demo to the whole company, it's usually the product owner who is presenting. And the whole team sits in a meeting room. And if there are any questions from the other teams or sales or marketing, then that's the moment when we are giving the answers or helping the product owner if he's got blocked during the presentation. And how it changed. So basically at the beginning we had few of the retrospective in which we've got a lot of repeat results and no avoid results. So nobody put a card that there's something that that person would like to avoid. And if we get, let's celebrate 2016 year last retrospective, there was a line here and everything that was good was above and it was distributed. Every person has a different card color. And the cards that were bad were below, and there was no cards there. So basically, when we changed the approach to dev test pairing for the whole year, at the end of the year, nobody was having any things that they want to change or fix in a short term and even in a long term. So basically, we were able to fix everything on our own, and we don't need Scrum Master or any external teams to help us. Because if there was something that I was struggling with, I just could go to the developers. And it was really, really easy. And basically that's it. So I would like to convince you to try it in your teams. Just in a matter when you are doing the testing, just ask the developer to sit next to you and just watch. If he don't want to say anything or do any notes, no problem. But if he wants to, that's even better, because he will start learning. He will start learning your approach to testing, for example, and maybe that developer can start producing unit tests, not focus about his understanding of the user story, but maybe also your understanding, and he won't want to have so many bug reports back to him just by extending the scope of the unit testing by a few tests that are the stuff that you usually check, and he can check it on a very early level. Do you have any questions?